Welcome. I am Dr. Debbie Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to the 13th annual Black Women Wellness Day virtual summit. You have got to be inspired and informed and empowered after those blessed words from Dr. Cheryl Wood. I have with me my moderator, Gail Johnson, who is the director of the Wisconsin Wellness Program at the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. And I am Dr. Debbie Jones, hospitalist for St. Mary's Hospital in Madison and board member for the Foundation of Black Women Wellness. We're here together to talk about living well at every age, tips for thriving and protecting our health even in the age of COVID 19. Uh, and this is a senior session, but I'm sure you're going to not only find tips at any age, but also you're going to find some resonance with what Dr. Cheryl Wood said. In fact, I was typing in the chat that you must have peeped my slides. So that is just God sending a consistent message to all of us. I want to share with you just some resources that I used in preparation for this event and gathering with us. Uh, but there are many, many more, and you'll see those along the way and in the slides. And I'll be sure to give credit where credit is due, where there are quotes being taken place. But when we talk about wellness, we have to be clear that wellness is multifaceted in this dimension. It's not just what the scale says that define wellness. We all know about wealthy people who have seem to have it all and they go on to commit suicide because they lack wellness in other dimensions of their being. Or we know people who are really particular about what they eat, but maintain toxic relationships with friends or lovers or in jobs that they hate. You could be a success on your job and be a raging alcoholic behind closed doors. Why? Because wellness is multifaceted. So when we talk about wellness, we're talking about wholeness in all of these dimensions of our well-being, in our physical, our emotions, our environment, our social settings, our spirit, our professional and our personal lives, our nutrition and our finances. Now,
Okay, I
just
just want to, I don't think the slides are showing properly.
just 1 minute.
That
Uh, yeah, oh, I think we got a little bit of technical difficulty.
because I can see it wasn't showing properly. We're going to.
Just 1 minute. We got a little technical difficulty here. Okay, there we go. So the story. Um, some time ago, I had children in college and uh, 2 or 3 children in college, and this was some while ago. And I was saving just enough to meet the match of my employer's 401k. When it occurred to me that I am never, ever going to be able to retire at this rate. So I found myself a financial planner and I went to her prepared to tell her about all the reasons why I found myself in the mess that I was in. And before I could utter a word, she stopped me and she said, there is no need to look back because you are not going in that direction. She would not allow me to look back to any of the mistakes I had made in my finances. She said, we are going to focus on the future. And I knew in that moment I would be safe with her. And I want you to know that in this moment here, we are safe. We are safe with each other. And Part of that safety means that we will be honest to ourselves, at least, about what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to keep it real. And I want you to know that we will be talking about tips in each of these arenas where we can make real changes to create the lives that we are hoping to, lives that we deserve, where we can thrive. My financial planner told me that if I wanted to retire comfortably with that big old fat 7-digit goose egg that everybody plans on and hopes to have, that I would have to make some changes. And she said, but these would be small changes that would that would give big results. And she said, once I habitize those changes, she said they would determine my future. It takes a change of habits to lead to a change of life. Forget inspiration. Habits are far more dependable and drives our behavior. Warren Buffett put it this way. He said, chains of habits are too light to be felt and too heavy to be broken. So motivation is what gets us started, but it's our habits that keep us going. We first make our habits, but then our habits make us. It comes down to this. We do have to do what's right rather than what's easy. But if we do it in small increments, it can result in big change. In a nutshell, our health, our wealth, our happiness, our fitness, and our success all depends on our habits.
I'm sorry. It fell off.
A little more technical difficulty. Yeah, see.
I'm sorry. Let's just redo it again.
I'm sorry, guys. This technical part.
She sent a text and said that. And I'm hoping I can see it. Okay, Jude. She gets her notes. Okay, because I want to make sure that they can see.
Are they able to see that? So 3 things I want you to remember about habits.
Okay, so that's good.
Get started. It's okay to start with the easy steps. Do it every day for 21 days. That's how we establish a habit. We're going to talk about some tips in all of these arenas. And I hope that you can see some that you can adopt for yourselves. So I thought when we were talking about finances that we would reach out to the U.S. first African American billionaire, Oprah Winfrey, to see what she says about financial well-being. And this is what she says. Be thankful for what you have, you'll end up having more. But if you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. And Tyler Perry, who was Forbes' once highest paid actor and owner of the largest film production studio in the U.S., said this. People ask me all the time, how did you make it? And I say it all the time, but people cut it out. It was nothing but the grace of God.
Just keep presenting from here.
So, one of the first things my financial planner asked me to do was to increase my retirement contributions to the full max. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't want to do that. I didn't think I could afford to do it. And she said, Debbie, you cannot afford to not do it. And rather grudgingly, I had no choice. I did it. I want you to understand it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so when I start shifting a lot of money into my retirement fund, I had to start figuring out what to do and how to live on what was left. You know that saying that your expenses rise to meet your income? Well, I learned that your expense will fall when your income fall. Now, my income was falling because I was shifting the maximum amount into my retirement fund now. But I started to ask some serious questions about my spending going forward. I made, with every purchase I made after that, I had to ask if this is a want or a need. There is data that says that if you lose weight, you can actually save money, obviously, because you're not eating as much. My financial planner required that I be clear about what I wanted my retirement to look like. And since I tend to think big, I was like, yeah, I want $1 million into the retirement fund, and I can't retire with anything less. And she required that I take these small changes that I'm talking to you about. Warren Buffett put it this way. He said, don't save what's left after spending. Spend what's left after you save. My planner told me, she said, Debbie, you're going to pay yourself first, and you're going to pay yourself what you're worth. With her, I learned to treat my finances like it was my business. And let me tell you, nobody cares about your money more than you do. I learned to cut expenses, losing the debt snowball. And if you don't know about that, I refer you to Google to do that. And I learned to negotiate. I don't pay full price for nothing now. And I learned after you get a certain age that you could ask for senior discounts. Some senior discounts start at 60, some at 62, some at 65. I just learned to ask. So later, as I got comfortable, and I was surprised how much easier it was to fund my retirement fund, putting in the full amount. I noticed it initially, I'll be honest with you about that, but once I started doing it and it became a habit, I didn't even notice it anymore. But then my financial planner came back and she said, we need to now maintain a an emergency fund. And I'm like, but wait a minute, I'm saving my retirement fund now. Don't ask no more. And she said, no, you have to have an emergency fund. And she wanted 3 months of cold hard cash in my checking account in that retirement fund. This required that I keep a monthly appointment with myself about my finances. And I learned what a budget really does. A budget basically tells my money where to go instead of me looking back asking my money where did it go. Advanced slide, Tiffy.
Yep, you'll just click the next one. Let's click that one. Yep, perfect.
So, physical well-being. Beyonce said, after having my daughter, I made a conscious effort to regain control of my health and my body. And Serena Williams, extraordinary tennis player, said, you can be whatever size you want and you can still be beautiful, both inside and out. So let's look at some tips on physical well-being, habits that we can adopt, such as committing to getting an annual physical exam with your doctor that you trust. If you don't trust your doctor, get one that you do trust. Some suggestions for goal calories in, for example, if your ideal body weight is 150 pounds, you multiply that times 10. That should be your goal calories in for the day. And you multiply that, divide that by 3 meals. And if it's 1,500 calories a day, you divide that by 3 meals, you end up with 500 calories a meal. That's what the calories should be. Just doing that tip alone will actually cause a significant amount of weight loss. The American Heart Association recommends walking 150 minutes a day. But if you're using steps, the recommendation in order to secure weight loss is about 10,000 steps a day. Stretch exercises such as yoga and will improve flexibility. You need to only do that for about 10 minutes a day. But if you're walking down the street with people and you find that you're kind of bumping into them, that suggests that there may be a balance problem. And one exercise you can do to improve balance is while you're brushing your teeth in the morning is to stand on one feet. I'll keep my hand on the counter, but stand on one feet while you're brushing. And then the next day, do the other side. You can actually improve your balance just doing that. More tips on physical well-being. You have to muscle up with some weights. It's clear that our muscles decrease as we get older. You can buy dumbbells or kettlebells, but you could just use some water jugs and just get going with that. Track your efforts using a journal or a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. But here's the bottom line. If it does not challenge you, it will not change you. So some of the things that we do will challenge us, but if you pick one small change that challenges you and make it a habit, you can get big results that results in the life you deserve. Other suggestions include taking the stairs. I work in an 8-story tall building, and sometimes I'm in that building, and sometimes I'm in another building where it's only 2 stories. I always take the on 2 stories. I always take the stairs for that. When I get on that 8-story building, I'm be thinking, oh, do I really want to take 8 flights of stairs? No. But instead, what I'll do is I'll do one flight the first week, and then I'll try to do 2 flights the second week, and just kind of gradually increase it that way. Small changes that makes big results. Uh, Two other suggestions. One is to get some really good gym shoes. For those of us who have problems with our knees, you get a really good pair of gym shoes, it will cut that knee pain down. And lastly, stand up straight. Uh, don't slouch. It's easy to do as you get older to kind of hunch over. But if you just stand up straight, that actually works those core muscles for you. Now, a word on emotional well being. Naomi Osaka is ranked the number one tennis player by the Women's Tennis Association. She won 4 Grand Slams, 2 of them back to back, which has never been done by anyone. And this is what she said. She said, "It's okay to not be okay." And Meghan Markle, who is the first African American to become part of the British royal family, said this: "As you become older, you become more comfortable in your own skin. And comfortable sometimes means saying no to things." She says, "I've learned that saying no is just as valuable as saying yes." So, what's some emotional habits we can pick up? Small changes we can make that will make a big difference. All the things that you see highlighted in red here are things where there's strong scientific evidence for. Go outside, go walking. This actually results in reduction of stress. Consider 4 count breathing. I do a lot of 4 count breathing in my career. I am on the frontline worker for COVID. I treat a lot of COVID patients in both of my locations, and that can be very stressful. This 4 count breathing is this: you you breathe in for a count of 4, you hold it for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4, and you rest for a count of 4. I do that a lot of times when I'm dealing with some really stressful things at work, and that works. There's data that show that if you keep a gratitude journal that documents and count your blessings, this results in better sleep, reduced stress, and improved relationships. I found during COVID, though, that I had to just minimize the negative inputs from the media, from conversations I had, from the things I was reading. It just got to be too much. And it was impacting my spirit. And I just had to start shutting it down, limiting what I was exposing my spirit to because it just got to be too much. There is data, though, that shows that if you just let some things go, I think Sister Cheryl kind of mentioned this, it actually results in decreased suffering. If you practice living in a moment that says that right now I'm okay. This can take the edge off of pain. It actually results in us eating less, and we can actually work smarter just by living and being in the moment. So cry if you need to, but then laugh because there is data that shows that laughter boosts moods and it decreases pain. There's also strong data that shows that if you get adequate sleep, it increases your mood. In fact, when we admit patients to our psych unit, we always ask what their sleeping cycles has been like. Give yourself some tender loving care. Rest, get pedicures, spa treatments, whatever it is that resonates with your well being. And be your own best friend. That means honor your own need and send yourself some compassion. Now, let's talk about our environment. And when we talk about environment, I'm not just talking about your neighborhood and where you live. I'm talking about the environment that you live in as well. President Barack Obama, the first African American president, extraordinary, Harvard graduate, the list is long, what this brother has achieved. He said this: our environment is too important to neglect. And my beloved Medea said it this way: only two places on this earth you're going to have peace: your grave and your house. Now, if you wake up in your house and you got no peace, something is wrong. So, let's talk about some tips, some habits we can adopt, some small changes we can make to improve our environment. The first two I highly recommend: get a comfortable mattress and pillows and get some high count sheets. Now, that comfortable mattress and pillow, you will have to pay more. But let me tell you, a good night's sleep is worth it. The high count sheets you can get at TJ Maxx for $39. I don't buy anything under 1200. You get in that bed, you just about slip out the bed. But make your bed every day. There is a strong data that shows that making your bed every day lowers your stress, helps you sleep. And this last part I added: your home will welcome you. In clutter in all of its forms. I mean, not just the clutter on your kitchen counter. I'm talking about the clutter in the closet. I'm talking about the clutter in the trunk of the car. Because data says that if you eliminate clutter, it decreases cortisol and it decreases your stress. Plant a garden, and I would add, it's not even plant a garden, have live plants instead of fake plants. uh, because particularly if you're a gardener, you get exposed to vitamin D. Black women are historically low in vitamin D. It boosts your mood and it also decreases risk of dementia. Create a destination room, a place for conversations without the TV being there, or a place for reading, or a prayer room. People have sold houses because others could feel the presence of their prayer rooms in that space. Shop wisely and choose sustainable produce and products. Studies have shown that when you choose sustainable products, it tends to be healthier, but it also decreases our carbon footprints, as does reduce, reuse, recycle. I'm trying to give up. This is what I'm working on now. I'm trying to give up the plastics in my life. Meatless Monday. Try going one day a week with just fruit and vegetables. Data shows that this also decreases carbon footprint and helps the ozone. And use your privilege to take a stand for your environment. I looked around my environment and I didn't like some of the societal things I was seeing happening in our community and to us. So one night I worked very late, but I still got up, put my mask on, and got out and joined the protest. And when I got out there, I ran across the Wisconsin president from my organization, ran across Lisa and her kids. Why? Because we were using our privilege to take a stand against things that was happening in our environment, in our society. And speaking about our social well-being, Amanda Gorman, who was one of the youngest poets to deliver an address, an inauguration, and the first elected poet inauguration, young poet laureate said this: "Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together victoriously." I'm talking about social habits now. Small changes we can make to improve our social well-being. Number one, access your current circle of friends. If you got some toxic friends, and we all have had them, it's time to divest ourselves of anyone who drains our spirit. There is data to show that if you join a group based on your interests, it will increase your self-esteem, it will increase your own motivation. So be open to new friends. This can result in a boost of happiness, reduce stress, and truly an increase in self-worth. I highly recommend joining a sister circle or creating one, which should be consisted of a circle of trusted advisors. We all need mentors and people pouring into our life. You are never too old to seek out a mentor. Study shows that this will increase your confidence and you will benefit from the wisdom of others. Spend quality time with loved ones. This results in longer life, improved self-esteem, and improved mental health. Celebrate traditions and cultures. This results in tolerance. Sometimes it's just tolerance of your uh, relatives that need a lot of tolerance. It can enhance quality of life and improve well-being. Participate in community events. Studies show that this strengthens social bonds and alleviate personal struggles. And stay close with family and friends because this adds meaning to life. And in COVID, admittedly, that's been challenging, but you can have family Zoom meetings. My family has Zoom meetings every month, or just pick up the phone and call. There are other ways that we can stay in touch. Now, all of us at some point have had challenges to our faith, especially during these real challenging times. And Bishop Vashti Murphy McKenzie, who is the first African American elected bishop in the African Episcopal Church, said this: "It's hard sometimes to believe that things will work out for the best when things look like they do. But we have a but God reality. Elijah's widow had no money but God. Jeremiah was too young but God. Abraham and Sarah were too old but God. David was a sinner but God. Peter, James, and John were uneducated but God. Rahab the prostitute was a prostitute but God." And my beloved friend T.D. Jakes says this: "Each day is God's gift to you. And what you do with each day is your gift to God." So let's look at some ways that we can improve our spiritual well-being. And again, all the red, there's strong data for. Connect with your faith community, whatever that looks like. Data shows that this increased life expectancy, it boosts immunity and improves stress. Keep a daily journal. It serves as a tool for healing, and in many cases, it can help you see God in your daily life. Spend quiet time in nature. This also helps you see God. There's some things you can't see. There's some things you will see, and you cannot say anything but God. Prayer and meditation at home. gives you a sense of oneness with God. Some people have home altars. I was going to throw you some pictures of home altars, but you could look that up. But just having a dedicated space where just you and God meets. Volunteer to help others. This actually gives you a sense of increased purpose. And focus on hobbies. Hobbies in itself can be a form of prayer. Singing, that's what the sports players say when they talk about getting in the zone. Cherish and appreciate yourself. David said, I praise you, God, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Try forgiving yourself. This results in positive relationship with your spiritual well-being, in your spiritual well-being. When you can forgive yourself, when you know God is forgiving you, it sort of centers us in our spirit. Have positive engagement with yourself and others, and speak with others. Share your experience and let them share their experiences with you. All of this adds to our faith and increase our spiritual well-being. Now, during COVID, we have all struggled with that whole work-life balance, and our 45th president has showed us that you could be elected to the highest office in the land. But if you're a hot mess behind the doors, you are not well. And he is not well. But Kamala Harris said, my mother would say, you have to be the first person to do, you may be the first person to do things, but just make sure you are not the last person. And Michelle Obama, our first lady, uh, Harvard, Princeton graduate, and Harvard Law School graduate, said this: success isn't about how much money you make, it's about the difference you make in people's lives. So let's look at some ways that we can improve our professional, personal, work-life balance thing. Number one, prioritize. Urgent does not mean important. Something may be urgently calling your attention, but it may not be of any importance to you. Play to your strength. We can't be all things to all people. Make your workspace work for you. Clutter, that's what I'm talking about. Have goals, short-term goals, long-term goals for the rest of, not only for the rest of your career, but for the rest of your life. Do the best with what you got. Be your best, always, in all things, at all times. And trust somebody, a doctor, a financial advisor, and friends. Help someone else along the way. Be a friend. Never ever stop learning. Read, take classes, get podcasts. Believe that the best is yet to come. The data says that most millionaires became millionaires after the age of 65. I'm not saying you should wait that long, but just so that you know, because we got seniors in this session, that the best is probably yet to come. And lastly, nutritional well-being. There's an African proverb that says this. Now that we've seen that uh, nutrition is just one part of our well-being, the African proverb says this: those who are at one regarding food are at one in life. And I ran across this poster that said, those who think they have no time for healthy eating will sooner or later find the time for illness. Let's look at some nutritional habits we can adopt to create the life we deserve. Keep a food journal. Studies show that if you keep a food journal, you're more likely to eat less, you'll have greater weight loss, and you'll be more mindful about what you're eating. Eat a rainbow of colored vegetables. This results in a greater nutritional value. Use fruit for dessert, especially apples, because it has higher fiber content and it help you get fuller faster. And add curry to your diet. This seems to improve mental ability. I threw this party and steer clear of all sugars in all of its forms. There's very little nutritional value in it. If you start uh, your diets or start your meals with soup and water, it will actually decrease how much you actually eat. And this part about considering Meatless Monday again, it reduces the carbon footprint by 8 pounds each Meatless Monday we participate in. An ideal plate should be 1/2 vegetable, 1/2 protein, and eat locally grown produce. Studies show that it's more flavorful, it lasts longer in the refrigerator, and it's just better for the environment. And the last tip is to brush your teeth, especially when you have a craving for sweets. If you brush your teeth, it just knock that craving right out. So here's the rest of the story. So just as I got used to putting the max into my financial plan and into my 401k, and I saved up in cash in my checking account that 3 months expenses. Do you know my financial planner came to me again and said that the government had this catch-up provision for those who were over 50, so you could put more in your retirement plan? And I didn't want to do that either, but I did it. And then she came back and said, I need you to update your estate planning with a will, with a power of attorney for your finances, with a power of attorney for your health care, with a trust for your children, your home, your property. And just when I got that settled down, then, and she told me, she said, last time we met, she said, you're on target. You're actually now ahead of target for your goal for your retirement. And I'm like, good, I'm quitting my job now. I'm done. She said, but I want you to pay off your mortgage. And she said, and just so that you'll know, you'll also need a total year of your expenses in your account in cash. And I'm like, really? But she goes, but look, your mortgage is already almost paid off anyway. You do that this year. I'm like, oh, small changes. And I'll spend the next year just getting that amount. I know the difference. I know what it is. Getting that amount into my cash. So I've got 6 months already. Got to get another 6 months. But you see what she was doing? If I had walked in her office and said, help me, my finances are a hot mess, she would have said, and if she had said to me, well, you got to do this, and this, I would have walked out and not come back. Instead, what she asked me to do was to adopt some small changes, real small changes. Yes, I felt it. Yes, it caused me to grow. And those made all the difference. Just making one small change after one small change after one small change after one small change. And each of those changes became habits. Now, I'm still working on wellness. I still could lose some weight. I still got social issues that I'm concerned about. My work life balance is still a struggle. But I know now how to do that. Not just that I need to do that. I got some tips on how to do that. How small changes become habits, big results. Now, sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. My small step of walking into that woman's office was the biggest step I could make. Sometimes you have to tiptoe, but tiptoe if you must. Pick some small change you can make for the better. It's better than doing nothing at all. Now, I mentioned to you that I'm a clinician and I'm on the front line. In order to build the future we deserve, we got to live to see that future. We're still in a pandemic. We still have to mask. I mask in my house. I just have to take it off to talk to you all. And we still try to keep 6 feet distance. But right now, one of the strongest weapons we have to help bring this COVID pandemic to an end is the vaccines. I strongly encourage all of you to get the vaccine. I make that recommendation, I know, as a trusted advisor, but I know that this is what helps. I've seen what COVID is doing to our community. We are dying at an alarming rate, and we have to try a different tactic. The vaccine, I took the vaccine, it was well tolerated. And so that's my parting shot to you. The recommendations that I've given you about making small changes will help create the lives that we want and deserve and can thrive in. But part of that means also being a bit proactive to get through this pandemic by masking up and taking the vaccine. And with that, Gail Johnson, let's open it up for questions if we can.
Wonderful presentation, Dr. Debbie Jones. And as I call you every year, because I think you and I have been doing this session, I think this is probably year 5 or 6. So wonderful presentation. And yes, do we have some questions? One of the things that we're going to ask you to do is, we're going to get to your questions, of course, but we really want you to give some additional thought to the tips that Dr. Debbie has shared with us. So if you would, as we call on you for your question, if you would share a couple of things based on the presentation that Dr. Debbie just shared, to share with us just a couple of things that you're going to try to look at for your life. I know just going through the presentation with Dr. Debbie, I'm like, oh boy. She hit me right where I do need to make some changes. But one of the things that I love is she talked about making small changes. Nothing, I don't know anything that happens overnight. Nothing. And so, just taking small steps can be a big help. So do we have some questions?
Is there anything in the chat box?
They're chatting.
Mm-hmm. Gail, are you able to see the chat box?
I cannot see it.
Can you?
Yep. One of the questions was, what about preventive measures when it deals with COVID?
Yes, I see it now. Yes, we can see it now. Okay. So what about preventive measures when it deals with COVID? There's a comment about decluttering. So
let me just answer that part.
Okay.
Gail, let me just answer that part about COVID.
Okay.
So here's the recommendations. One is to wear a mask at all times. Even in my house, I wear a mask. The other is social distancing still. And some people think that whole social distancing thing is why it's pretty rampant in our community, because it takes luxury to be able to social distance. You got to have a big enough house to be able to do that in, or several houses in which you can do that in, which people have done. But do the best you can. But if you're in a house where you can't social distance, keep your mask on, and when you cough, cough in your mask. But mainly get the vaccine. Right now, if we get the vaccine, we can shut the virus down. The longer the virus lives, it will mutate, and it will mutate to a point where our vaccines no longer work. But if we all get vaccinated, then it doesn't have a place to live and thrive in. And so it ends up dissipating out of the community. So the vaccine is our best hope. There is already another variant of COVID in the community in all 50 states, the Lambda virus, which we know is actually resistant to the vaccine, but it does not appear to be as deadly as the Delta virus right now. So the vaccine is what keeps it from propagating in our community, and it's the vaccine that's going to get us out of this pandemic. Next question.
Do we have another question? Dr. Debbie, while we're waiting on another question, oh, we do have, okay, here we are. From Tiffany, um, it's easy to compare ourselves to others who are farther along in their personal growth, and that quickly can lead us to abandon our small progress and make us feel like we are never going to get there. How do we stop doing that? And Tiffany, can you, before Dr. Debbie answers your question, could you just share with us a couple of things that you took away from her presentation that perhaps you're going to incorporate into your life? And nothing is too small.
That's the point. Nothing is too small. Everything adds, precept on precept, step by step. It made a big difference. What sits in my account now took change, small changes. I mean, who knew? So, in terms of comparing, I had a pastor who used to call it comparisonitis. We're each in our own lane. We're each on our own journey. You can only live your life. Live that life to the fullest. Everybody else's life is taken anyway. Live your best life. Make changes for you. For women of color, the best thing we could do for our families is take care of ourselves first. Uh, and we will be the example that we want to see. I leveled the playing field by saying it doesn't really matter where we are right now. We can make small changes in all those dimensions of our health. Make it a habit. And just know that we're all on a journey. Nobody is where they want to be yet still, and not even me in many ways. But I'm on a journey and I'm making progress. Small changes, big results. That's what a good habit would do for us. And that's what I want to leave you all with. I don't care what your weight looks like right now. I don't care what your eating habits have been like. I want you to know that we can make changes, small changes, meaningful changes that can impact our future and create the future that we can thrive in, that we deserve. We can make small changes with that. It's not going to be a big leap. It's not going to be a total life changing thing. Most changes don't happen that way. Most changes start slowly. So I'm giving you permission and I'm asking you to make small changes. I've given you some suggestions. You could add some onto your list there. Make small changes that will add up and give you big results in the end. That's the way it's always been done. My financial planner told me I was going to do the same thing that everybody else does that ends up with a great big nest egg in the end. And she was right. I did do that. And actually, when I look back, it really wasn't that much of an effort at all. But I had to change. And so that's what I'm asking you is look for changes you can make, which is why I said start small. I pick any of those things. Start small, make a change, step forward. You can do this. You deserve it. You can thrive. It is in your hands. You can make the small changes to become great habits for great results. I thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you, Dr. Debbie. Inspirational as always. Thank you for being my partner in crime, and I mean that in a good way. And of course, you and I will collaborate for something next year. Thank you again to all of you who joined us this morning. Remember, we can be well, and I'm going to add great at every age. Take care of yourselves and stay
Thank
well.
you. Thank you both so much, always, for giving us wisdom, encouragement, reminding us to take those small steps. Being in a community, we're in a community of well Black women who are moving to create change. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, everybody, stay tuned. In just a few minutes, we are going to be joined by a returning request, an absolute gem to our community who joined us last year. Yes, I'm talking about Kara Stevens. She's going to be our morning keynote right here on this stage, 11 a.m., Building the Wealth You Deserve. And we deserve it. We've been claiming that all morning. Kara Stevens, the Frugal Feminista. Stay tuned.